You ever notice how we're just drawn to patterns? Like circles especially. I mean, the sun, the moon, even our own eyes.
Yeah, it's like something in us recognizes them as important.
But get this. Our deep dive today might just convince you that circles aren't just pretty. They're practically like woven into how everything works.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
we've got excerpts here tying circles to all kinds of stuff. Sacred geometry, the formation of life itself, the whole shebang.
It's a lot to unpack.
It is. But that's what we're here for, right? To dive deep.
Absolutely. So where do we start?
Well, one excerpt lays out this sequence of expanding circles, 8 in total. And it says they map onto like key stages of development, both physically and biologically.
Intriguing. It reminds me of sacred geometry. Assigning meaning to shapes like this. It's not just one culture that did it either.
Right. Which makes you wonder if they were onto something universal.
Exactly. Like a hidden language of the cosmos. So this circle sequence, where does it begin?
With the most basic thing imaginable, circle 1,
Mm-hmm.
the point, the singularity.
Mm.
In physics, that's the Big Bang, right?
The beginning of everything. But it's also mirrored in the zygote, that single cell that starts a human life.
Whoa. So it's like the ultimate starting point for everything, both the vast universe and each of us.
Yeah.
It's kind of poetic when you think about it.
It is. Then we move on to circle 2 duality things, splitting, separating. Like the emergence of positive and negative charges.
Oh, yeah. Like that first cell division, too.
Yeah.
1 becomes 2. It's a pattern repeating itself.
Precisely. Now, circle 3, this is where it gets a bit more complex. It's the vesicapacious, that almond shape you get when 2 circles overlap.
Okay, I can picture that.
Mm-hmm.
But the source claims this shape isn't just theoretical. It's actually found in light itself.
You're not kidding. That blew my mind, too. It all comes down to polarization. You see, light waves can oscillate in different directions.
Like up and down or side to side.
Exactly. And when they pass through certain filters, they become polarized, either vertically or horizontally. And guess what?
What?
The vesicapacious becomes a visual representation of that interaction, like a snapshot of how light behaves at a fundamental level.
That's so much cooler than I expected.
Yeah.
It's like we're seeing an echo of the Big Bang right there in the way light behaves.
The source even says this shape represents electromagnetic fields emerging in the early universe. But let's move on to circle 4, shall we?
Yeah, hit me with it.
This one brings us the first stable 3D shape, the tetrahedron. Ring a bell.
Tetrahedron. It's on the tip of my tongue.
Think carbon, the backbone of life. It's a master at forming tetrahedral bonds. It's crucial for building complex molecules.
Of course. So it's like the universe was setting the stage for life from the very beginning with this shape.
Precisely. Now buckle up, because circle 5 brings us pentagrams and the golden ratio. Even I, as a physicist, get a little giddy about this one.
Oh, I know the golden ratio. It's like the mathematical recipe for beauty, right? It's in everything. Seashells, the human body.
You got it. And the source even claims it's in DNA, the arrangement of petals on a flower, the branching of trees, even the proportions of the human face. It pops up everywhere.
So it's not just some mystical thing. There's real science behind it.
Absolutely. Which makes circle 6, the seed of life, even more interesting. It's all about hexagons. Think honeycombs, snowflakes. Those patterns are more than just aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, they're everywhere. You see them all the time.
Exactly. And there's a reason for that. Hexagonal packing is incredibly efficient. It allows for maximum density and stability, which is why we see it repeated so often in nature.
It's like the universe is an architect obsessed with tessellations.
Maybe it is. Now, circle 7, the flower of life. This is where things get a little more out there. The source mentions wave function collapse. Have you heard of that?
I have, but honestly, I'm not sure I fully grasp it.
It's a tricky concept from the realm of quantum mechanics. Imagine a coin spinning in the air. Before it lands, it has the potential to be heads or tails. That's superposition, a state of multiple possibilities existing at once.
Okay, I follow you so far.
Wave function collapse is when one of those possibilities becomes reality, like the coin finally landing on heads.
So how does the flower of life fit into all this?
The source suggests it might hold a kind of code for how wave functions collapse, and how those collapse possibilities give rise to the forms we see in our physical world, like the blueprint for turning quantum soup into stars and planets or even living beings.
Whoa. Okay, that's a lot to process.
It is, and we're not done yet. We still have circle 8, Metatron's cube.
Yeah.
The source claims it's like the blueprint of space itself.
The blueprint of space. That's a big claim.
It is. But think about it. Metatron's cube encompasses all 5 platonic solids, The only 3D shapes where every side is an identical polygon.
Okay, I vaguely remember those from geometry class.
Well, they might be hinting at some fundamental geometric principles underlying the structure of space-time, a sort of cosmic architecture we're only beginning to glimpse.
So we started with simple circles and ended up contemplating the blueprint of reality. That's quite a journey.
It is, and we're just getting started. We still need to unpack how these circles relate to wave functions and all that quantum stuff. Plus, the source claims these patterns appear not just at the tiny level, but also in planets, galaxies, even our own body.
Okay, yeah, we've definitely got a lot more ground to cover. It seems like circles are just the beginning of a much bigger story.
You could say that. So are you ready to dive deeper into the mysteries of wave functions and the role of charge in shaping life itself?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay, so wave functions, I'm ready to dive in. But I gotta admit, they still feel kind of mysterious to me.
Think of them like maps of possibilities. In the quantum world, instead of saying exactly where a particle is, a wave function tells you the chances of finding it in different spots. It's more like a cloud than a dot.
Okay, I'm kind of getting that.
Yeah.
But why do these wave functions so often make circular patterns? Out of all the shapes, why circles?
You hit the nail on the head. It's all about how waves act when they're trapped. Imagine plucking a guitar string.
Okay, got it.
That vibration makes a standing wave. It looks still, even though it's moving electrons in an atom, they're kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Instead of a string, they're held by the atom's nucleus.
So you're saying electrons are like tiny vibrating guitar strings stuck inside an atom?
In a way, yeah. The electron's wave function, that's like telling us where it's most likely hanging out around the nucleus. And because it's confined, the wave can only exist in certain ways that make those standing waves. And guess what shape those often take?
Circles.
Bingo, circular or spherical.
Makes sense. But if it's all about being trapped, how can we see circular patterns in stuff that isn't trapped? Like light.
Now you're thinking, light can have this thing called circular polarization, means the electric field of the light wave, it's spinning in a circle as it travels.
So that's not about being stuck in a space. It's how energy moves through the universe. Like circles are built into the laws of physics.
You got it. Is there any way to actually see this wave stuff in action? Or is it all just on paper?
Good question.
Ever heard of cymatics? It's how sound waves mess with matter. You can actually see sound waves by using a vibrating plate with sand on it. As the plate shakes, the sand makes these crazy geometric patterns. And a lot of them are circular.
Hold up. We can literally see sound waves making circles. That's insane. Suddenly those wave function diagrams don't seem so out there anymore.
Exactly. Cymatics shows us right in front of our eyes how waves make these patterns. And if we accept that reality itself is built on wave functions, then these circles are woven into everything around us.
Okay, now that's mind-blowing. So we've seen how these circles show up in the tiny world, but the source says these patterns go big too, from tiny cells all the way up to huge cosmic structures. Like, how can the same idea apply at such different sizes?
That's what's so cool about it. These basic principles, they show up everywhere, like red blood cells.
Yeah.
They're round for a reason. It minimizes surface area, which makes them super efficient at moving oxygen. Same idea as electron orbitals, maximizing stability using minimal energy.
So our bodies are using those efficient circle patterns too. Never thought of it like that. But what about nerve impulses? How can a signal through our nerves be circular?
Well, the signal itself doesn't travel in a circle. But the oscillations in neurons, those electrical ups and downs that make the signal go, they can have circular patterns. Think of ripples spreading out from a dropped stone in a pond.
Gotcha. So it's not the signal, it's the wave-like way that signal gets sent. Our nervous system is speaking in circles too. Wait a sec. The source also mentions this weird link between our tongues and leaves something about similar patterns in taste buds and leaf veins.
Yep. Both the papillae on your tongue and the veins in a leaf, they got these circular branching patterns. Might seem strange at first, but it could mean electromagnetic forces are shaping how things grow.
Wait, you're saying electromagnetic forces could be making both tongues and leaves? That's a wild thought. But I'm seeing a theme here. Whether it's efficiency waves or electromagnetism, these circles keep popping up. And the source says it goes even bigger than biology, right? To the cosmos.
Absolutely. Most obvious example, planetary orbits. They're not perfect circles, but their elliptical paths are governed by angular momentum. Same thing that makes electrons orbit an atom.
So planets are doing a cosmic dance with the same physics as tiny electrons. But what about black holes? Those things warp space and time. Surely they can't be circular too.
Even some black holes have perfectly circular event horizons. That's the point of no return. Even light can't escape. Just reinforces the idea that some shapes like the circle, they're inherently stable, favored by the laws of physics even in the most extreme places.
From tiny cells to black holes, circles are everywhere. It's like the universe has a favorite shape. But we got to remember charge plays a role in all of this too. The source keeps saying charge is the key to understanding how these patterns happen, especially when it comes to life itself.
You're spot on. Remember those charge separations we were talking about? They're essential for making electric fields. And those fields, they influence how charged particles act, leading to, you guessed it, circular patterns.
It's all coming together, but I got a feeling we're just scratching the surface. We've got a lot more to explore, especially how charge shapes life and maybe even consciousness. Stay tuned, deep divers. The most mind-blowing stuff is yet to come. Okay, so we're back. And charge, how does that fit into all this? The source keeps saying it's key to not just life, but maybe even consciousness.
That's where things get really interesting. Remember how charge separation makes electric fields? Well, those fields can actually influence how other charged particles behave. Maybe even making those circular patterns we keep seeing. But it's even deeper than that. The source mentions quantum coherence in cells.
Quantum coherence in cells. That sounds like some next-level stuff.
It is. It basically means living things might be using quantum effects in ways we don't totally get yet.
Okay, so how does charge fit into that?
Think of it this way. Living organisms, they seem to keep this careful balance of charge separation inside their cells, like a tiny battery always making an electric field, and that field, it might be messing with subatomic particles, making them coherent. It's like life itself is using the weirdness of quantum mechanics.
So we've got tiny batteries in our cells making electric fields that could be using quantum stuff to make life work. But hold up. How did the first cells even form? Was charge involved way back then too?
Absolutely. The source says charge attraction was key to making those first cell membranes. You know, those barriers that separate the inside and outside of a cell. Crucial for life. And guess what? Those early membranes were made of fatty acids that were pulled together by, you guessed it, charge attraction.
Hold on. So it's the same idea as those tiny batteries we were just talking about.
Exactly. Same force that made those first cell membranes billions of years ago is still at work in our bodies today. It's how our nervous system works. Neurons firing electrical impulses our brains thinking.
That's crazy. So from those first cells to our brains, it's all about charge. But can we scale this up even more? Does charge play a part in the big patterns of life on Earth?
Remember how we said our bodies have a measurable electric field? Well, turns out Earth has one too. There's a difference in electrical potential between the ground and the upper atmosphere.
Wait, so Earth has an electric field. What does that even mean?
Means there's charged particles constantly flowing between Earth and the ionosphere. It's like a global electric circuit. And that circuit makes this thing called the Schumann resonance. It's a natural frequency about 7.83 hertz.
7.83 hertz. That sounds familiar.
Because it's close to the frequency of some human brainwaves. Some scientists think there might be a connection between Earth's electric field and our consciousness. Like we're tuned in to the planet's electromagnetic hum.
Okay, now that is mind-blowing. But the source takes it even further, saying even the SUN and the galaxy have electromagnetic ties to life on Earth.
Well, the sun's always blasting us with charged particles. Solar wind, it interacts with Earth's magnetic field, makes the auroras, but could also be affecting our climate and even evolution. Some scientists even think solar flares can mess with human behavior and health.
So we're connected to Earth through its electric field, A&D, influenced by the sun's charge. It's like we're all part of this huge GE cosmic electric circuit.
And then there's the Milky Way itself. It's got its own massive magnetic field, shaped like a torus, that donut shape we talked about before. It seems like everywhere we look, from tiny cells to the vastness of space charge and electromagnetism, are fundamental.
My head is spinning.
Oh, where?
We went from circles to like the interconnectedness of everything through charge. What's the takeaway here? What do we do with all this?
For me, the biggest thing is these circular patterns, these echoes of charge and energy. They're not just random. They show how deeply connected everything is. From the tiniest quantum stuff to the cosmos, we're part of something much bigger than ourselves, and the universe is full of mystery, maybe even a kind of intelligence we don't fully grasp.
The source ends with some big questions. Is the brain an electromagnetic receiver tuned to Earth's field, or even the cosmos? And are cosmic structures, with all their charge and patterns, a kind of life we just don't recognize?
Those are questions we could spend a lifetime pondering. That's the beauty of this deep dive. It gives us more questions than answers. It opens up possibilities and tells us to keep searching for those connections in the universe.
Absolutely. This deep dive has been wild. We went from circles to the cosmos and everything in between. It showed us there's so much more to learn about the universe and where we fit in. Who knows what other mysteries are waiting as we explore the patterns connecting everything. So keep asking those questions, keep exploring, and never lose that sense of wonder. Because as we've seen, even the simplest shapes can unlock the deepest secrets of the universe.